CD. Listen to the story in Album Inside with Jan Van Eck.
Hello, my name is John Howard. I'm a singer-songwriter and I've been recording now for about 45 years. My first release, Kid in a Big World, was released by CBS in 1975. I recorded it at Abbey Road and Apple Studios with Tony Meehan and Paul Phillips producing. My second album, Can You Hear Me OK, was produced by Bidoo with string arrangements by Pip Williams. It was planned for release in January 1976, but in fact didn't get a release until 2005. Throughout the rest of the 70s and into the early 80s, I worked with producers like Trevor Horn, Chris Rainbow and Steve Levine. And then in about 1984, I moved into working in A&R and marketing for various record labels, which I did right through up to 2000, when I retired from the music business. With no expectation of returning back to recording or writing, in 2003, RPM Records reissued Kid in a Big World on CD. That prompted me to think again about maybe returning to recording and writing. And Cherry Red signed me up to make a new album called As I Was Saying, which was released in 2005. The same year that Can You Hear Me OK finally got a release on CD. I continued then to record right through the 2000s for various labels, a French label called Eurovisions, a Spanish label called Hanky Panky Records. And then in 2015, I made an album with Robert Rotifer, Andy Lewis and Ian Button called John Howard and the Night Mail, and that was released by Topita Records, which is based in Hamburg. In 2018, You Are the Cosmos Records, based in Zaragoza in Spain, reissued Kid in a Big World on LP, and they also put out Can You Hear Me OK on vinyl, as well as a compilation of my 70s recordings called The Hidden Beauty. This year, You Are the Cosmos has released my new album, Cut the Wire. It has 10 new songs on it, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that now.
Hello music lovers, he already introduced himself, John Howard. He grew up in Haywood and Bury in Lancashire, United Kingdom. At his 7, he started training as a classical pianist, so a pure musician. So I'm glad to have him here in Album Inside. Already more than 45 years in music, and tonight he's going to talk about his 16th album, Cut the Wire. Enjoy.
The opening track, So Here I Go, is my tribute to one of my musical heroes, the Incredible String Band. I used to go and watch them in the late 60s and early 70s in Manchester. And I always loved the way that they had this fantastically chaotic way of performing and playing, but somehow it all seemed to come together and work beautifully. And I wanted to try and achieve that myself with something. So I had a go at that with So Here I Go, and using acoustic guitars and tambourines and various bits of percussion. And the idea I had was that lots of friends had actually come into the studio, sat down with their bits of percussion and instruments and joined in on the recording. In fact, this track and the whole of the album is recorded by me alone. I'm playing everything and singing everything. So obviously these things take some time, but it's been great fun to do. That also became the lead-off track for You Are the Cosmos, who treated it, if you like, as a single before the release of the album. And we shot a video for it round the hills and countryside of Mercia, where I live.
Weaving in and out of situations I create, checking into motels in the dark, fill the water on my belt and drink the sky above, looking for a space where I can park. Terracotta courtyard fills my eyes, iguanas catching fireflies. Nothing ever takes the time you think that it'll take. Nothing ever lives in heaven's heart. Nothing ever feels the way you think that it can feel. Nothing ever ends the way it starts. fading through the early hours alone. Darkness is a screen projecting all your worst regrets, caricatured by voices on the phone. Arid fields are stretching to the hills, reflected on your body's windowsill. I go. Nothing ever shows you where you really want to go. Nothing ever leaves you once it stays. Nothing ever halves the whole and hands you all the key. Nothing gives the things it takes away. Here I go. Here I go. If I please myself and let imagination breathe. If I take the road I never tread. If I work so hard my back is aching by the fire, will I live to know when I am dead? Thunderstorms are shaking down and shine. Iguanas waiting in a line. I go. Nothing ever takes the time you think that it will take. No, no. Nothing ever lives in head and heart. Nothing ever feels the way you think that it will feel. Nothing ever ends the way it starts. Oh, nothing ever ends the way it starts. No, nothing ever ends the way it starts. Here I go. Here I go. Here I go.
Track 2 on the album, Remains, began as a poem, but as often happens with me when I write words down, a tune began to emerge. I sat the lyrics down on the piano and very quickly the thing seemed to write itself, really. And it's one of those songs that builds with a sort of harpsichord and organ backing, and then gradually percussion and guitars and more pianos come in. So it reaches a sort of a climax at the end of the number.
What you'll hear is the sound of a one man leaving. Stop looking for everything around you. If you concentrate on my eyes, you'll see me drowning in here. Why did I swim out so far and lose my way? Stop laughing, I'm losing. Everyone who I loved is slowly falling. Stop running from everyone who's hurt you. If you concentrate on the sky, you'll see me flying away.
Like many of my compatriots in the UK, I've been pretty horrified by Brexit and the whole sort of situation in the UK, which seems to be split down the middle now. And that inspired the next track on the album, Pre-Dawn. If you like, it's my view of what can happen when people get everything they want. And I'm not sure that the new dawn that everybody is looking for is going to be quite so wonderful as some people hope it will be. But there you go. These things, for me, come out in my music, and it's a great release, actually. If you're feeling frustrated about something, I find music a great outlet for that.
They rose up and ran to the house in the village, shouting and screaming for someone to hear. The sun rose, the sky burned in their hearts, they were millions, as the sound of the hose rang in their ears for the new day. Whose is this dominion? Whose these days? What use are you, God, as you supposedly watch us fail? Change came quickly in the center of the city. It rippled out and gave them the new day. The museum of nostalgia was dismantled brick by brick. Decades of knowledge burning on the tip of the new day. Just fail. Astride someone's life, not mine, but where I am away and waiting alone in the dark of the pre-dawn. I'm sailing on the promise of atonement for the sins of my father. The lampposts are singing in the derelict streets. Alarm bells are ringing where it pays you to cheat. A cacophony chorus in the hills above town. Lanes full of shadows hunkering down from the new day. And whose is this dominion? Whose these days? What use are you, God, as you allegedly watch us fail? Astride someone's grave, not mine, where I am alive and wandering alone in the calm of the pre-dawn. I'm sailing on the storm of retribution for the sins of my father.
Becoming, which is track 4 on the album, again, that began as a poem, and it's really my observation of other people's relationships, my own as well. As one gets older and the relationship gets older, my husband Neil and I have been together now for 33 years. Obviously, one changes with time, And I've watched other people's relationships change, develop, etc. Some fall apart, some stay together, some adapt. And really that's what the song's all about, how we adapt to situations, sometimes for the good, sometimes not. But relationships are what they are. You know, you either go with the flow and develop a relationship together, or you split. But Becoming starts out as a song which sounds quite sad and then does resolve itself. There is a redemption, if you like, at the end of that song.
I always feel I disappoint you now. Am I so different from the man you fell in love with? I loved that man as well. He was so certain of his place in others' lives, so sure he made his space in some way special. Impressions always left with people smiling. And now with age comes vulnerability, an inability to focus quite so clearly, and nearly always catching up behind, nearly always catching up behind. You used to look at me as though I was your angel, the only reason you got up and faced the day. Now I look for that look, but it got stuck in one gone yesterday, replaced by something bordering on confusion, asking, is this the guy who made my world a rainbow? I see you struggle with things that once were simple. The same goes for me sometimes. The nights are longer when the days bring in no light. It doesn't seem right that we can't do what we used to. We're nearly always catching up behind, nearly always catching up behind. You used to look at me as though I was your angel, the only reason you got up and faced the day. Now I look for that look, but it got stuck in one gone yesterday. This morning I held your hand and told you we were lucky. We were older, we were frightened, but we were lucky. You waited for a moment, and then you smiled. You squeezed it back and suddenly I knew it was still you and me together, in our anger, in our confusion, in our weaknesses, staring at the sky and seeing storm clouds. And there in the eye of the storm we saw ourselves, running fast and catching up behind, running fast and catching up behind. Here is my vow, I'll never leave you lonely, at least not for now, not until I have no choice, when my voice is but a whisper in the room. Pull the blinds down, let's be warm within our gloom. Let's cuddle up with who we are together, not grieving for the ones we used to be. We'll never be the ones we used to be. I'll shout and rage as my age grows, as my world gets smaller every day, and nearly always catching up behind, is catching up behind. And look at me as though I'll always be your angel, the only reason you get up and face the day. And when I look for that look, it's gonna bring back such good yesterday.
Although Cut the Wire is only released at the moment on CD, I tend to think of track 5 on this album as the end of side 1, and that is Keep Going Angel. It's a kind of nod towards the records I used to hear on the radio when I was a kid, particularly Joe Meek productions, and he used to produce an artist called John Layton, who had 3 or 4 hits in the UK in 60, 61, 62. And I love the sound he used to get. He had this great sort of massive reverb sound, and singing girls in the distance, and this great atmospheric panoramic scenario that he used to create with his songs. And I wanted to try and get that with the production of Keep Going Angel. And so I built up the guitars and the keyboards and the voices, and brought in lots of backing vocals and singing in inverted commas girls in the background, which was actually me, and it's sort of got that early 60s sound about it, really.
Keep not giving up. Keep believing and believing that wonders can happen, something good will come up. Keep running, angel. Keep not standing still. Keep believing and believing that anything can happen, and it most probably will. Keep going, angel. Keep looking ahead.
2, or track 6 on the CD, is the title track, Cut the Wire. The lyrics tell of an imaginary childhood, really, although some of the imagery in there is gathered from my own memories of my childhood, mixed in with this sort of fantasy scenario, really. This family who are living this idyllic life until something, the wire, comes along and changes everything. Now, a lot of people have asked me what the wire is. When I wrote the song, I saw it as something that the cut that happens when you move from being a child to an adult, and how everything changes and your positive imagery of everything can be slightly dampened, if you like, by growing up and experience. But there's also a sense of something a bit dark, a bit shadowy, arriving in the lives of this family. Interestingly for me, quite a few friends who've heard the song have said that they see different things. One friend of mine, actually Robert Rotifer, who played guitar on the John Howard and the Nightmare album, he said he saw it as the beginnings of the internet, how that changed everything. Social media changed our whole lives, the innocence of the past when the internet didn't exist to now when it does, and how communication is, that one-to-one communication anyway, is dying. It's always fascinating to me when people interpret one's lyrics in a different way to the ideas you had when you wrote the lyric yourself. So I'm always interested to hear if anybody else has any other ideas on that particular song, or any others of mine, of course.
Let's climb all the trees and shout our name to the sky and clouds. Let's run in the streets and laugh. Let's pose for our photograph. 'Cause sometimes, yes, sometimes we need to cut the wire. Mom danced in the rain last night. Dad howled at the full moonlight. They ran in the sea naked. We all did the same as they did. 'Cause sometimes, yes, sometimes you need to cut the wire. I pressed my face against the window, wrote I love you in my breath. A woman walking past the window mouthed I leave with you instead. I screamed it's snowing, Mummy. She brought the wood in for the fire. She made us tea and toasted crumpets. We sang just like a Christmas choir. And it was easy then. Yes, it was breezy then. Before they laid the wire. I hid in the Macintosh. The priest left a mum to watch.
The next track up is a song which really began from memories of my teenage years and my early 20s, when one was probably a lot more carefree and also a lot more careless about other people's feelings. I think as you get older you become a little bit more sensitive towards other people, and you have a responsibility for not hurting people's feelings. And I think when I was younger I maybe lacked that somewhat. I was very ambitious and probably didn't really relate to people in that personal way that I do now. I was very focused, one-track mind, must make it, must be a star. Of course that didn't happen. That probably softened my attitude as well a little bit. So yes, Idiot Days it's called, and it is a looking back song, and saying how, you know, in those days one never considered anything negative happening, you know, that you were going to go on forever, that life wouldn't affect you personally, that you could just do your own thing and there were no consequences. Well, of course there are consequences.
My idiot days. When I didn't believe that nothing I do will make a difference. When I didn't spend wasted hours before dawn wishing I hadn't said some truly stupid things. Watched my opinions taking wing, breaking hearts upon impact in my idiot days. If you see darkening clouds, you get rain. It's always been the same at the end of our idiot days. Didn't expect saying goodbye had consequences. When I didn't foresee waking alone, left with no excuses for walking out without a word. The loudest thing I've ever heard, the explosion of silence, trying to make sense of my idiot days. Smell roses, then it's summer. It's summer. If you feel falling leaves, the summer's gone. It doesn't mean something's wrong. It's just that those days are gone. See, needing the foresight of levitation. When I climbed on the up and up with no fall, taking the fall to the basement exit door, arriving in streets I'd walked before, with no plans of returning to my idiot days.
We Are is probably a very redemptive song. It certainly sound-wise reminds me very much of a Brian Wilson sort of chord structure anyway. The way that the chords move around and the root notes move around. It is very Brian Wilson orientated, and he is one of my heroes, so it's not surprising that he will occasionally seep into the way I write and the way I record. And I always look at We Are as a sort of a ray of sunshine, if you like. It's one of those songs that is meant to make you feel good and made me feel good while writing it.
If I finally decide to ride off with my dreams for company, be there with me to say, see you there. Who knows where, but for now let's live in the wonder of who we are. We are the essence of our memory. We are the remnants of our dreams. We are the breaths a million children take when they see the sun rise above the ocean, and the moon glide over the sea. We are the essence of our memory. We are the remnants of a dream. We are the breaths a million children take when they hear us scream. When time was on my side and things were what they seemed at least to be, and I finally saw you there. But for now, let's share all the wonder of who we are. We are the breaking of the morning. We are the falling of night. We are the hopes a million children have to make it alright. See you there. Who knows where? And the sun rose over the ocean, and the moon slipped into the sea.
The penultimate track on the album, Jean Genet Just Imagined, is literally an imagination song. It's one of those stream of consciousness lyrics that I occasionally come up with where I just let words flow on the paper, not really sure what they mean. Scenarios start to develop, a story starts to develop, characters start to come into the situation, and I just go with the flow, really. I just let it happen. Jean Genet was one of my favourite writers when I was at college in the early 70s. I read all his books and became a great fan of his. I loved his imagery. And I think also the rather bohemian life that he led appealed to me a great deal. That was always in my mind when I wrote songs like Kid in a Big World, a kind of decadent end for people. That's always fascinated me. So Jean Genet comes into this story. I'm not sure why. Even Da Vinci comes into it. Again, it's just a flow of ideas that pour out onto the paper. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think as a song, it seems to have come together rather nicely. I was extremely flattered when Ian Button, who is a fantastic drummer, and was the drummer on the album John Howard and the Night Mail. He also mastered Cut the Wire for me, and he told me how impressed he was with the drums on John Genet Just Imagine, which was a great compliment from somebody like Ian.
Vagabonds and hoodlums rolling by her world, the window of a girl, Jean Genet, just imagine. Secret armies holed up in a basement banquet hall, carrying their torches down the corridors, where we sang our songs each night, every smiling face alight with the fire of tomorrow that lasted home, and the time it took, and the nights we stood in the mire of making something good. If the girl had known that we'd be back, she'd have carried her light to the window, to another world, protected by a girl Da Vinci would have painted. We heard storms around us and lifted up our hearts, believing as it started it would end. With the songs we sang each night, beating out our drum, which keeps us alive till tomorrow at last at home. Oh, now I watch the sky as the day flows by, and I see those fires fill my eyes, as the girl who knew that we'd be back always carried her light to the window, safe within her world. Bravery of a girl, Jean Genet, just imagine. We'll never forget the girl, Jean Genet, just imagine.
Well, the album finishes with the big ballad, and every album I've ever done has always had the big ballad, either beginning an album or ending an album. Kid in a Big World had Goodbye Susie. That was the big opening ballad for that, and is a song I perform today. Well, the ending track on Cut the Wire is a song called Long Since, and this was really inspired by three friends of mine who died about 30 years ago in their early 40s, and they were all very inspirational friends of mine. They were very individual characters, not particularly friends of each other, but I loved all three of them, and we used to have lots of fun and go places and lots of laughs together. I'd also been working on my autobiography at the time, which basically is part one of a series of three autobiographies called Incidents Crowded with Life, and that was published last year by Fisher King. And the first book covers my childhood right up to 1976, when I had quite a serious accident and broke my back. And so it covers that 70s period when these friends of mine, we were all out there clubbing and wining and dining and really having a ball. So obviously writing those memories down brings a lot of other memories flooding back. And I think that definitely inspired Long Since. And as usual with my lyrics, the memories begin, or the images start often from reality, from real experiences, and then develop from there into something a little bit more fantastical, a little bit more imaginary. And that's what happened with the song Long Since as well. So it begins as a song inspired by these three friends of mine and moves into different scenarios. Some are factual events and others are imaginary experiences, but that often happens with my songs.
In the eastern wing, before you'd said a thing, we both smiled at how priorities had changed. With a kiss you left my senses still adrift on the scent of far as memories retain. Skies and colored all the earth, fill my dreams through childhood in the dark, light my way, your whisper brushed my day with a beckon promise we would never change. Incandescent rooms lit by the summer moon, where we danced barefoot so that silence would remain. When smiles that fell from aging portraits wrote 1,000 lives and stilled my heart in a moment's timeless mark, you made it here on a fragile heart. You came charging through my life like an abandoned mutineer. I tried to rescue you, but you were lost. Long since I found you. Up the belfry stairs, our laughter chimed the hours, where the whole of England cradled us for days. Those lives we saw in our children's lore were the tales we wove to keep our fears at bay. As we slept, then we blinked the day away and hailed the lark. We gave it here from our brimming hearts. We went running through each landscape, waved to thousands as they cheered. I watched you in the since it started. In the northern sky, I watched the night arrive, lighting up horizons full of fallen stars. Here, your promise disappeared through the door of memories, always left ajar. So I face a different life and watch the one we planned catch fire, till the ashes float away upon the breeze. I'll keep it here in my beating heart. Take another step towards the gifts you gave. since it won you.
artist and his CD. Listen to the story in Album Inside with Jan Van Eck.
So, there you have it. The 10 tracks on Cut the Wire, a rundown of each song and each track. The album was recorded in my studio here at home, in my courtyard of my house, called Una Casita Studios. I've been here for about 4 or 5 years now, but this is the first album I've recorded completely here. My previous album, Across the Door Sill, was recorded over 2 studios. Cut the Wire was recorded completely here at home. The album's released by You Are the Cosmos. It's available now on CD from all good record shops, also directly from You Are the Cosmos website, and sites like Amazon, etc. So I hope you've enjoyed this little rundown of the album and this little chat about my life and career. As I say, I've been around a long time. I started actually performing in 1970. Used to do a lot of folk clubs and a lot of universities, and I was signed up by CBS in 1973. So on and off, 40 odd years, I've been making music one way or another, and I hope to continue for a long time to come. Well, thanks very much for listening. I hope you enjoy the album, and many thanks to all of you. Bye-bye.
Jan, thanks for sharing your story with us. I enjoyed it. And all your listeners, never forget, support the artist. They give us hours of pleasure with their music. I hope to see you next time here back at Album Inside. Bye-bye.